minimum undisturbed. Most of the areas have several hundred feet of undisturbed buffer. Along the Coventry subdivision, where the existing residential is, that's where we placed our residential lots, so we wouldn't have townhomes next to residential. So we put single family next to single family, and we're going to do at least a 30-foot buffer there. And then all the other locations have a 20-foot buffer. And then we're going to provide a buffer inside the subdivision between the townhomes and the single family, our new stuff, at least a 20-foot buffer there. There'll be signage, so monument signs, wayfinding signs, that type of stuff throughout the subdivision. Street lights will be provided. Sidewalks will be provided. The sidewalks will be constructed on the common areas when the development is done. And then in front of the homes will be built whenever the actual houses are built. So those will be included. Parking was another issue. So each space, whether it's a townhome, each lot, whether it's a townhome or a residence, will have at least 2 spaces in the driveway and 1 in the garage. So at least three per unit. We've also provided an additional 58 at the amenity areas at the entrance and throughout the subdivision. And then in the townhome areas, we provided an additional 68 spaces in some of the areas between the townhomes to kind of act as overflow areas. Water and sewer and reuse is located along Highway 30. It'll be Effingham County Water, Sewer, and Reuse. The access to the property, we're projecting 1 access point. It will be at Colic Helmy and State Route 30. So right now the county has a transportation master plan. They've done a traffic study. They've studied that intersection, and I think it's on the list to be improved. So what we've done is talk to them, and we want to be included in the traffic study. Go ahead and have our numbers generated with that and see what kind of additional work will be needed to have a full-blown intersection there. And then we would participate in improving that intersection, whatever it might be. So this is the kind of the 1 access point. It will have to be approved by Georgia Department of Transportation, and this will be our only wetland impact is just for the entrance road. Let's see, open areas provided. We've got 25 acres of open space, 10.25 acres of pond, 14.8 acres of common open area. More than 50% of it is buildable, so we've got about almost 9 acres of buildable area. So that's 8 or 9 football fields worth of area that we've got for amenities and open areas. So some of the amenities that are proposed are listed out in there: pool, pool accessory structures, community fire pit, playground, athletic or multi-purpose field, nature trails, dog parks, and then open spaces throughout the subdivision. So most of the amenities are at the front of the subdivision, but then a couple of the dog parks, the walking trails, the little pocket parks with tables and benches, they're placed throughout the subdivision to give some other open space throughout the development. Let's see, the amenities, sidewalks, ponds, all these will be responsibility of the developer until they give them over to the homeowners association. There will be basically a homeowners association for the single family units, and then there'll be a few more requirements for the townhomes. So what they're going to do is provide, they're a shared building, so they want to provide additional homeowners association requirements for that, for roof maintenance, exterior maintenance, and landscaping. I think that's about it. I know the property owners had talked to many folks about this property. I think there was a lot of people interested in it. They basically selected Greenland because they were local and knew they were going to provide a good finished product in the area, and they also approved or worked with them to cap the density on the project at 2 units per acre. So that's something they've agreed to with the landowner. I believe that's all I've got. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Metzger. Any questions or comments from the board at this time? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add?
Yeah, the county engineer couldn't be here tonight, but just to expand on what Mr. Metzger said, we're considering a development agreement to improve Highway 30 at Kawakami intersection, and that would be in lieu of the usual traffic study, but because it would be more specific to that intersection. And that for water sewer, the county, yes, will provide that. And the design engineers are studying sewer upgrades that would be needed. So we're cooperating and working together on that to make sure it's done on the timeline that works for everybody.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else have anything to wish to add? All right, thank you, Mr. Metzger. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
I wish to speak against the change. I'm a little bit concerned about the density that I reside in the Coventry subdivision, and I'm concerned about the density of the development that they're proposing. They're proposing over 300 units, and that's quite a lot of traffic that's going to be emptying out. In addition to that, the multifamily housing is very inconsistent with our area. We're on 1 acre lots. Most of us in our subdivision, many of the subdivisions around us are 1 acre lots, with the exception of, I believe, Park West. Those are a little bit smaller lots, but most of the other homes developed in our area are on at least 1 acre. So the density that they're proposing is going to have quite an environmental impact. And while I appreciate the natural areas that they're wanting to preserve, I'm very concerned about how that's going to impact our aquifer as sewage is filtered through, into the water supply that feeds most of our community and private wells in the area. So, and the traffic, the density of the homes will add considerable number of drivers to Highway 30, which is already exceptionally congested. There are accidents on a daily basis. Students, this development's going to have a tremendous impact on our schools that are already overcrowded in the area. So these are the concerns that I wish to express. And also, I'm not sure if agriculture land, while I appreciate that the owner of the land has a right to sell their property in it, and rezoning is very common, but I know that, some agricultural land in the state is protected, and I don't know if this is or not, but, there is a concern about that as well.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Could you please state and write your name on the sign-in sheet?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I will.
Sorry.
My name is Jan Hall.
Sorry.
All right, anything else?
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
No, and I thank you for your time and consideration of our concerns. I have other neighbors that are also concerned. Some of them weren't able to be here, but I do have some fellow neighbors that are here that may also want to speak.
This is the first of the process, so there will be other meetings.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Carl Wallace. I live on the corner of Kawakami and 30, and I'm against this. The first I heard of this was when I received the document in the mail of the meeting that got canceled already. The second I heard of it was the mail I got of this evening's meeting. Also, the small zoning sign that's put on the property, which is across the street from my property, it's no bigger than this. It's this big and this big. That's it. and it's kind of by a box, a electrical box or a telephone box. So I feel like that's not where it should be, or should there be more than one sign, okay? The man said that property owners in the area were contacted. I'd never been contacted, okay? I'm against it because the major traffic on Highway 30. If any of you live over there or drive by there, I go to work at 4 in the morning. My wife tries to leave around 8. We can't get out of our driveway. My driveway is almost across the street from that little white church. We have to wait sometimes 10 minutes to get out of our driveway. I've been hit twice pulling into my driveway from both directions. So I feel like this many homes on that Highway 30 is ridiculous, okay? School-wise, we got an elementary school. I was on this property before that elementary school was built, okay? That elementary school is small, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. I don't know that it can handle that many homes. The high school and middle school up the road is the same. So I voiced my, concerns with bringing in development and not having the infrastructure to support it. Also, stores, we have no stores. We have to go all the way up into Rankin to shop if we want to stay in the county. If not, we go down to the end to Food Lion or Public over there in Chatham County. So I'm against it totally. It was mentioned the sewer system, okay? I'm on a well. They came across my property and put in a sewer system. I'm not tapped into that. I never got offered to get tapped into that. That sewer system goes further up the road. Where it comes from, I don't know. There are 3 manhole covers on my property, and they smell terrible of gas. I walk to my mailbox, gas smell. I park my car to get to my mailbox, that gas is coming out of those manholes. It's ridiculous. I don't know how much can go more in there. So again, I'm gonna sign this paper. Carl Wallace is my name. I live on the corner of Kawakami and 30, and I'm against it, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. And we can only apologize for the change in the meeting date. It was an error with the Herald, the way the stuff got advertised, so was out of the county and staff's hands, so apologize.
Okay.
So thank you for your comment, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against? All right. Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Metzger, do you have anything you wish to readdress?
Just want to make sure that subdivision is going to be on county water and sewer, correct?
It has to be with the density.
Yes, it'll be county water and sewer. So out along Highway 30 is reuse, sewer, and water. So we're exploring those to see, the capacities and what needs to be done to connect to those. But it will be no septic systems. There'll be no discharge into any aquifer. All of it will go into the county county sewage system and be pumped to the treatment plant. As far as traffic goes, it's going to increase traffic. There is a lot of traffic out there. The county has some plans to improve the intersection. We're trying to work with them to make this point of entry work with the improvements. So, it's should be the best of the improvements plus what we're doing. If we were coming in at a different location and adding another entrance, that would probably be worse off. But hopefully when we can work together, we'll improve the intersection. It'll be better for our development and the counties. As far as the stuff next to Coventry and the existing subdivision, we tried to keep the townhomes farthest away from them, and they back up to a wetland area, so they'll kind of be naturally buffered. And we put single-family residential up next to Coventry. Normally, the county's requirement is a 15-foot undisturbed buffer between residential and residential, we're gonna show a 30-foot. So we're doubling that buffer area. And it will be a lot of lots, but it's probably gonna develop over, 6 to 10 years, so it's not all at once. It's something that the school system will have some time to work on. But other than that, I don't have anything else unless y'all have got any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Metzger. Any question, any additional questions, comments? Staff? Rest. All right, thank you, Mr. Metzger. Discussion, I'll close public comment, discussion. Any discussion at the board?
No.
All right, I'll call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Y'all mind reading the staff's recommendations?
Yes, sir. So, motion carried by all. Would you like for us to read them, or would you like a copy?
A copy would be fine. I just wanted to make sure we all knew what they were.
Yes, sir, that's no problem.
I can send you the staff
Ms.
report.
Teresa, can you provide him with a copy? Good. Ms. Teresa?
Where would I send it? Do you want to email here? You can email zoninginfo@effinghamcounty.org,
Did you hear that?
and I'll reply to that with the staff report.
Is that fair? Ma'am, Ms. Hall? Would that work for you?
Yes, and I just want to be sure that I clearly understand, you're not approving it at this point, you're just approving some recommendations, and it has not been rezoned,
That is correct. This is the Planning and Zoning Board. This is the first step. So this is merely a recommendation to the commissioners that they basically have they're meeting the ordinances, they're meeting all the rules. And then it's up to the county commissioners, who are elected officials, to make the decision whether this is beneficial or not beneficial for Effingham County.
Thank you for your clarification, I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Item 4 is a public hearing for Tracy Fleming, requesting variance to allow for the use of a camper RV as a temporary dwelling during the construction of a residence located at 138 Pine Drive, Zone AR1. This is the 2nd District. Is there a representative for Ms. Fleming? Ms. Fleming? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Tracy Fleming.
So you want to build a house and you need to live in a camper?
We're going to live in our RV on property while we build. We have already started the majority of it. We haven't got the permit for the building yet. They have applied for it. They're telling me about 2 weeks before they're probably going to get that. I mean, I don't know. I'm at the mercy.
Do you have a timeline? I mean, 12 months?
We're hoping to be in by the end of this year. Yes.
Questions, comments? Ms. Teresa?
Yeah, the building permit, we have the number, but I mean, we believe it's been issued. No inspections have been called in yet.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah,
What-
so
on
so
what?
it's out, it's been approved, the building permit.
Okay, I guess has it not been, I talked to him Saturday. I talked to the builder Saturday. Now, he may have misunderstood my question, and maybe that's when he's gonna start, but he told me a couple weeks. So maybe he's hopefully gonna start in a couple weeks.
That could be it.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, building permit's been applied for. As far as we know, it's been issued to the builder. We're recommending our usual conditions that the camper may be occupied, in this case, for up to 12 months during construction. Obviously, there are some delays that we're experiencing. If the board wishes to change that 12 months, they can. If you find that you need additional, certainly come back and we'll work with you. And then upon issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the house construction, the camper needs to be vacated and disconnected from well and septic. But otherwise, we recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? You would like to speak? Ms. Fleming, if you would have a seat for a moment, we may have some questions for you in just a moment. Yes, ma'am. Could you come forward, please? Good evening.
I'm Celeste Drescher. I have the property right beside her, and I don't have a problem with the camper being brought in on there. I am kind of concerned about how the sewage will be handled, because I don't know, do you have to have a certain way to connect that or something?
Do you have a
I
septic
assume
tank?
that would tap into the existing septic system?
Mhm.
Okay,
That's-
because their septic's right beside my property. That's why I'm asking.
Well, it would be no different than if it was a home tapped into that septic system. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying? Yes.
So they would have to follow regulation on that?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, septic system use is approved by the health department, so we don't have a whole lot of involvement there. That's required before a building permit would be issued. So in our review of the building permit, the health department was made aware of this and must have recommended approval because we've got a building permit. So,
Is that fair? Did she say, did you state your name? Did you? Oh, you did. Okay.
Celeste Drescher.
Okay, thank you.
I need to sign it.
Will you, please?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as Ms. Teresa stated, that's a health department, regulating the septic system. So,
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you have any questions or comments, I mean, I guess you can direct them there.
yeah, environmental health is located on the second floor, so we're all in the same building now.
That's the only concern I have.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Dresser. Is there anyone else wishes to speak? Call for a motion.
I make a motion to grant variance with staff recommendations.
A motion for approval. Is there a second?
I second.
Second, Mr. Larson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, Ms. Fleming. And that's 12 months, right?
12 months.
12 months. Good luck. Item 5 is a public hearing for Darren L. and Gina G. PV request to rezone 1.25 of 59.1 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site located at 2544 Corinth Church Road. This is the 3rd district. Good evening.
I'm Darren Peavy. We recently purchased this property probably a little over a year ago and would like to give the 1.25 acres of my son for a home site.
All right, sir. Thank you. Questions, comments? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add to that?
That's how we understand it as well.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I second.
Second, Mrs. Zipper. All's in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Item 6, a public hearing for Herbert L. Johnson Jr. and Carol Vita R. Johnson as agent for Rich Dean Johnson. Request to rezone 4.37 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site located at 309 Lehigh Circle. This is the 3rd district. Good evening.
Good evening to the panel. I'm Herbert Johnson. How you doing, Ms. Katie, Ms. Teresa? This is my wife, Carol Vita Johnson.
Good evening. All right, sir. I mean, is there anything additional to what I just said? Or you just want to build a home, or you gonna divide the property, right?
Yes, sir.
And then build a home.
Yes, sir.
So there'll be two dwellings on the property,
Yes, there's already one, my mother
already-
and father.
right? Okay. Ms. Teresa?
Yes, this is a 4.37 acre parcel in Lehigh Acres, which is a major subdivision. And so we're treating it just slightly differently than usual. It's zoned AR1, and it's a non-conforming use, but that's common in older subdivisions that came into existence before zoning was adopted. So that's not a problem. However, when the applicant asked for us to sign a survey splitting the lot two things came up. One, the zoning, because both lots were going to be very much out of compliance, it was better to just rezone them to AR2, but also it's in an existing subdivision, so it just adds a little more review to the issue, a little more review, and we have to look at the lots around the area. One of the neighboring lots, let me find it, was split just above. You see there's a slightly darker green there. That lot went through exactly the same process a few years back, and so it is slowly, it's possible that owners of more lots may come in and ask for the parcels to be split, but in any case, one was approved a few years ago in 2018, so we saw that there was no opposition at that time. We're assuming this one, it's certainly not, there's no zoning problem, so we're recommending approval. We haven't received any calls for or against. We're not aware or familiar with any interest in the neighborhood on this parcel. There's sufficient frontage for the two proposed lots, so there's really no particular issue. It is, because it's in a major subdivision, for approval, I can't be signed by staff. It would have to go before the Board of Commissioners, but that's really a formality, and once they approve the rezoning, they'll be familiar with it at their next meeting, then they will sign it.
Thank you. Do you have any comments you wish to make to that?
No, sir.
No, sir. Thank you. Questions, comments? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Larson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you. Good luck. Item 7 is a public hearing for Justin Gunther, requests a conditional use for a rural business. Gunther Spot, a small-scale, home-based dog boarding business located at 124 Saddlehorn Drive, Zone AR2. This is the 4th District. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I didn't know public speaking would be part of this here, so.
It's not much.
I'm just kidding. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Gunther, and yes, that's what we're trying to do. Just a small, you know, like a home away from home as opposed to a kennel type situation. That's basically it.
So, I mean, I guess my concern is this is in a subdivision type area. So can you tell us a little bit more about your plans, or how many dogs, or, you know, how it all's gonna work?
Okay, so we have, I think, 3.04 acres. We have at least an acreage fenced in. We did that for our dogs. So the plan is no more than 5 dogs at a time. That's the maximum. And basically what we're offering is a home away from home, you know, because I know for myself and my wife, we've passed up many opportunities because we don't want to bring our dog to a kennel. So, you know, that's basically what we're doing, is just a home away from home, you know, a comfortable place people can bring their dogs. I have we've had some friends and some people locally that I have reviews that would vouch for us, you know. So, we have proper frontage, and you know, I think everything would be fine. You know, clean operation. And
All right, sir. Thank you.
Getting nervous up here.
You're fine. Is there anybody else have any?
Couple questions. Do you plan on keeping them inside your house, or you got a kennel for them outside that you're keeping these other dogs, or?
Well, no, I have to, if all goes well here, I have to speak with Beth Miller to get the actual kennel license, even though we're only doing 5 dogs. So yes, they will be inside, but we have our house separated, and we have you know, crates, so we keep our dogs separate, because I believe that's a rule. We have to keep our dogs separate from the dogs staying, and you know, the goal is to have 5 dogs at a time there, but I don't ever foresee, you know, it might only be 1 dog, 2 dogs, 3 dogs, you know.
How many dogs do you have?
3.
3.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So those dogs will be living inside your house, the additional 5 dogs?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll have, you know, free roam in the house. We have a dog door leading out to the backyard, which is all fenced in. Privacy fence. It's blocked from the road, from the public. So yeah, it's going to be like a kennel situation, you know, but without the kennel. Like, the dogs aren't going to be stuck in little crates, you know?
Gotcha. What kind of fence? I mean, how high is your fence? I mean, it's,
The lowest part is 6 foot, but it goes up to 6.5.
I gotcha.
It's a wood fence, double wired, like, it's hard to explain. I sent a video with showing some of the.
That's good.
Yeah.
Anything further from the board this time? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add?
No, that is, I mean, I do have the link to the video. We could queue it up or save that for the commissioners meeting. I can take stills from it if that might work better.
To show a little bit about the fence, you know, that it's.
I mean, as long as it's tall enough is my only question, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
I'll take stills from it and add it to the presentation for the commissioners meeting.
Okay.
Anything further at this time? All right, thank you, Mr. Gunther. Does anyone else wish to speak, either in favor or against? Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good afternoon. My name's Johnny Mae Martin, and I live right, like 2 doors down from him. Feel a little bit nervous here, but I have no problem with him with the dog kennel. I've been living out there now like 20 years, there in that subdivision. We don't have a homeowners association anymore there. There's a lot of kids out there that roam, you know, in that subdivision. And my part of being afraid is one of the kids out there being bit when the dogs get loose out there with a dog kennel. If he's going to have more than so many out there in that yard. And he does have a fence that's high enough, and he got that prior to when he moved into the subdivision. But my concern is the kids out there. I have 2 granddaughters myself that I'm raising there, but there's other little kids that's running around out there, and I just don't want the dogs to get loose, you know, and the kids whatever get bitten out there. And I'm so much afraid of dogs, I'll be honest with you, okay? I'm afraid of dogs, but that's not, I don't want that to stop him from having it out in the yard. I'm just afraid there's kids out there. There's a lot of kids that run around.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
making sure make sure those dogs are, make sure somebody's there to watch those dogs, whatever, not get loose.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor or against this request? All right, we'll close public comment and discussion from the board. I mean, I can't get past it. It's just strange how this thing lays out in this subdivision, because these last 2 lots are really large, but it's still part of a subdivision. Strange dogs he doesn't know. I mean, I don't really know. Anyone else want to speak up?
So just a dog business in a subdivision, just kind of having a hard time with.
I know we denied the last one, that's why I'm on it, because of the subdivision, so.
Well, there's so many homes in that, there's a lot of homes in that subdivision.
She's surrounded. All right. Nothing further. I'll call for a motion.
We'll make a motion to deny.
Motion for denial. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second on denial is, all those in favor of denial? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So, Ms. Martin, this still will go to the county commissioners. All right, thank you. Item 8 is a public hearing. Verizon Wireless as agent for Kimberly J. Barnes, Charles K. Barnes, and Mary J. Barnes requests a conditional use for a telecommunications tower located on Old Augusta Road, Zone L1. This is the 5th district. Is there a representative for Verizon? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Harold Timmons. I'm here tonight on behalf of Tower Engineering Professionals and our client, Verizon Wireless. And we seek your recommendation for approval for a 195-foot tall steel monopole tower to be placed on the Barnes property. We have secured a lease area of 100 feet by 100 feet in size. We have a signed lease document. We will access the property through a 30-foot ingress and egress easement. That very same easement will house all of our utilities, power, telco, and fiber. The tower itself is designed for in the event that there's a catastrophic failure, that the tower will remain on the property, has a 100-foot fall zone radius, and that is well within the boundaries of the property itself. We will have a generator at the site in case of a power failure. It will be powered by propane. The compound itself will be surrounded by 8-foot tall chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire top, and the gate will be locked at all times. We provide this, we were provided with this opportunity by Verizon because it had received information in its call data where they were receiving a number of drop calls and data connection difficulties, and so they procured our services to go out and look at the area. And so we took a look at the area. We did not find any existing structures within the 1-mile radius that we were given to look within. Nearest structures 2.17 miles to the northwest. There will not be a shelter building at the facility. We will use ground cabinets. For the most part, I think that's pretty much it. We are required to provide landscaping on the site, and we are asking the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners to consider granting us a waiver to that particular requirement. And we ask for that waiver because the property itself is already heavily forested. It's owned by the Barnes family. The mother and father live on the property, the daughter lives on the property, and the granddaughter lives on the adjacent parcel right behind it. There's no intent, as we have discussed, for them to ever possibly sell that property, although you can't ever say never, but for the long-term future, there's no intent on their part to sell the property or develop the property. And the existing vegetation that's on the property also serves to provide a buffer for Kimberly Barnes, the daughter who lives on the property, and her home that's on the property is the closest one to the existing tower structure. So the existing vegetation buffers the noise from the road and the adjacent use to the south. So there's really no benefit to them to ever clear that because it provides them the buffer that they so desire, and we could never plan as much as what that buffer could do. So we are asking this commission to consider relieving us of that activity because we don't intend to ever clear any more than the ingress egress easement and the 100 by 100 foot lease area. Okay. And with that, if you have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to try to answer those questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Timmons. That was very educational.
I mean, as far as the buffer goes, I think we were going to handle that just with a site visit and check it.
Okay.
Because unless you wanted to submit a separate variance application, but I think we were just going to try to handle that at the staff level and do a site visit and evaluate it that way.
That's fine. We'll work with that. All right.
Good.
Thank you. Do I need to sign this list?
Please, sir. Yes, sir. Do you have anything else to add, Ms. Teresa?
No, it meets ordinance requirements, and we're recommending approval.
Gotcha. Questions, comments at this time?
Mr. Timmons, are you considered offering up any services or any spots on that antenna for county use? You know, police services or emergency
The
services?
typical approach is that local jurisdictions are offered space on the existing towers, typically at no charge to the jurisdictions for EMS equipment. The carriers only ask that the jurisdictions work with them to locate their equipment at locations on the tower that are not commercially viable. For the most part, on a 195-foot structure, you're going to have Verizon's antennas are going to be at 190, then you have 180, 170, and maybe 160. Below that, the county could have its choice of what it needed. And for the most part, most local jurisdictions only need to be around 100 to 120 unless it's like a main facility. And then they would put that on their own property somewhere, and it would probably be 250, 300 feet or something like that in height. So the short answer to your question is yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor or against? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, Mr. Timmons. Item number 9 is a public hearing for Warren Ratchford as agent for Donnie R. Bazemore. Request to rezone 1.61 acres from R1 to B3 to allow for an automotive sales lot located at 5947 Highway 21 South. This is the 5th District. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hope all y'all are doing all right. Well, thank you for your service. And I am back here tonight on one y'all have already heard before. And but what we're trying to do is we made some changes. I hope y'all been able to see that. We're looking to rezone this piece of property, which is right on 21, right down there, close to Goshen Road, to have it used for a business that's already existing further on down 21. And that's Mr. Bazemore's used car lot. He's just looking to move that business from where it's presently located within the town of Rankin on down to this area. He had applied for rezoning before. This board had approved the request. I think it was mainly based on the master plan for the county, which pretty much shows everything on 21 ultimately being zoned for commercial type use. What we came before y'all tonight was to provide some additions to that original request and ask y'all for y'all's approval to go on to the county. Now, I sought very hard to find an engineer or somebody who could make this look a whole lot better than what it looks like, but I could not find an engineer who would help us on this. So, with Mr. Reese's permission, I just put a sketch that I did on it, trying to show some of what we were asking for. Basically, we're asking for the property to be rezoned to commercial use to allow this to go forward. We are seeking B3 zoning. There were some items brought up, I understand, at the last hearing before the county regarding the actual way, the condition of the road. That's Lewis Drive. And so what we were looking to do was to increase the depth of the asphalt as recommended by y'all or the county to help with that situation. That would be done at Mr. Bazemore's cost. One of the things that was suggested was moving the entry to the rear of the house. Some people have looked at this and said they'd rather see it closer to Highway 21. Those are the type things we're just looking for input from y'all on to see what everybody would be a little bit more happy with. Now, then we get to the division line between the old Goshen Terrace subdivision and this one. And that's that back line there that runs between Lewis Drive and Bay Drive. Bay Drive, to the best of our information, is caught up in some title issues as to who it belongs to, but it's not open, has not been open in some time, so it's just Lewis Drive there. We were hoping that the addition of a 10-foot planted buffer, we can designate types of plants, et cetera, and a 10-foot board or PVC fence placed within 1 foot of the boundary line would block most of any kind of interference with anybody living in close proximity. Some of the things that we'd like to suggest that we're willing to do are use a permeable type paving so we don't have to worry too much about what's going on with the drainage and everything. There is drainage there, but that would just be a little bit easier to handle. Downlighting to the extent possible to keep any kind of light pollution away from some of the residential areas. And then the signage, we wrote down here, I wrote down here that it'd be placed 30 feet from the right-of-way of 21. Now, that is solely from a personal perspective. It's not anything I don't think that the county requires or anything like that. But we are looking just to do what we can to protect the other residents who live behind this area, while at the same time going forward with the progress that's already started. And as many of you know, one of the areas has already been rezoned to commercial. The property that Mr. Jack Lucky owned right there on the corner directly across from here, my understanding is there's no objection to that rezoning application. That's owned by Donald Brandt now and Susan Brandt. So that's where we are. We're asking that y'all reconsider this again. Again, allow a recommendation to the county commissioners to accept this, and with taking note of the various things that we're trying to do to make this work as well as possible for everybody involved, while at the same time not denying Mr. Basemore the full use of this property. I've had several people talk to me about covenants. The covenants are way over 20 years old. They no longer apply to this property. After zoning came in, zoning took over, and it's been more than 20 years since any of that happened. So that's where we are tonight, and we're going to try one more time to see if the county commissioners will allow it in light of what we're asking to do here. It will be a significant expense for Mr. Basemore, but he's willing to make it to be able to get his business on the property that he owns. And so we would appreciate y'all's recommendation to the county to allow it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ratchford. We probably will have some questions or comments for you in a moment.
Thank
Unless
you.
anyone has any direct questions in this moment. We're good. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request?
Hi, my name's Rebecca Scouten. I live at 145 Lewis Drive with Jason Lawson. That is the third house on the left, if you would take a right down Lewis Drive. And as Mr. Ratchford said, we've been here a few times before. So I'm gonna start out with the line that I said last time because it is still true. I am not against progress at all. I understand that progress cannot be stopped, and it is a good thing for a county, right? What I'm here to do is give you my 2 cents, hopefully, on what kind of progress that not only our county has, but this specifically pertains to my personal neighborhood. So, I mean, I'm gonna say I almost fell over when I got this piece of paper in the mail because I thought, surely, not a car lot. Again, we just did this, right? And they said no, that a car lot was not considered to be the commercial that this, I guess you'd say, the front of our neighborhood should be. So we actually had your lovely assistant go back and look at the minutes from the previous meeting when he came through and asked for a car lot, and he did refer to the lot that is at the corner of Chimney and 21 as one that is previously deemed commercial, which I feel is a bit vague because what is specifically written in your minutes from your meeting on page 27, the last meeting we had, is that that actually, I believe it was you remembered that from the meeting previously that y'all had decided it would be business professional or business medical is the exact words that you guys used that is in your minutes. So the way that was explained to us in that moment was that yes, this was sort of a commercial business, but by being deemed this type of commercial business, that the hours that this business would be open, as well as the days of the week that this business would be open, would be sort of catered around sort of like medical professionals. So probably not open past 5 or 6, probably not open on the weekdays. And that is, you know, if I had seen like, hey, a pediatric speech therapy office is opening, I would not even be here. I would love to be somewhere else right now. You know, if I had seen something like a podiatrist's office open, I would not even be here right now because we previously agreed, right, integrity of word, that this would be business professional medical. And I'm in alignment with that. You guys decided, and I'm behind that. I am not behind a car lot. That is a different level of professional. I believe that the hours will be later in the evening, which is when our community is home. Actually, most of us are retired, so we're home all the time. But there are obviously newer families there that are there after 5, as well as on Saturdays. I'm pretty sure the car lot's gonna be open on the weekend, right? So that sort of, to me, is a different type of commercial, and I hope that you guys would realize that. I also sent in some pictures. I don't know if they got them in time, but y'all can always check them out later. Y'all don't have like a screen down here for us, huh? Sorry. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and start talking. I did send in a picture. If you are not familiar with this area, to get to this particular lot, you cannot take a left from 21 if you are coming from Rincon heading towards 95. There is no protected left. You also cannot U-turn at McCall. So any traffic that's coming from Rincon ideally would have to go down to Goshen Road or pull through the Parkers. But if you Google this address, it is not going to take you that way. It is going to tell you to take a left on Chimney Road, and then you're going to drive down about 5 or 6 houses, and you're going to take a right on Azalea. At that intersection, it is all residential. All 4 corners of that is residential. You will drive down Azalea, where you will have to take a right and start heading back towards 21, where you drive down our street. So once you turn off Chimney Road, you pass nothing but probably 20 different houses, driveways, etc. So I'm obviously not wanting a commercial business that is going to drive commercial traffic through our neighborhoods at times when most people are home. And I know that this is one of the, I think it's the second oldest neighborhood like in this area. I guess you'd say Rincon, even though we're incorporated, other than Westwood. And you know, I think a lot of times people think maybe it's a dying neighborhood, but I would challenge you to drive through it. I mean, it's not. It's definitely not every neighborhood like you see popping up these days. Bigger lots, bigger trees, bigger houses. And yes, there's old families there. I mean, this house that I live in has been in my family since 1960. But there's also newer families. There's 2 brand new builds that are going on in our street, brand new houses. Between the last meeting and this meeting, 6 brand new families have moved in. So that is old guard moving out, new guard moving in. There are women that walk up and down Lewis Drive with strollers. There's about 7 of us that like to bike up and down Lewis Drive all the time. So this is truly a neighborhood street that I feel like if you approve this, you would know that you're approving commercial traffic. And I would even say if you go further back, when the 2 lots that were approved where the medical facility is now, the little urgent care, we were also promised at that time that nothing surrounding our neighborhood would be anything other than medical professional. So I believe that this is a decision that you guys have come to many times over the past, and that I am just here to ask you to stay consistent with that decision. So not only does all the traffic have to go left down Chimney Road, but if you also look, I sent another picture that is basically the deceleration lane. So if you are now coming from 95 and you're driving into Rincon, you technically get in the deceleration lane to get into Lewis Drive. It's actually a very short lane because it's only meant to be residential. And there is a mini little sort of like pull-in that I don't know if it's this Bay Drive that you're talking about. It almost just looks like a second like made driveway from somebody that lived there, which isn't that big of a deal if you're 1 or 2 cars going into that facility once a day. But from what Mr. Reddick told me, you guys aren't really, planning on extending that deceleration lane so there can be a second entrance from 21, that it seems that we're all just agreeing that it's okay to turn on to Lewis Drive, a residential street, and bring commercial traffic through that as long as it's only just a few feet less from Highway 21. Because if I send another picture of the driveway, you can see actually how far back it is. And their mail, their trash, everything is on Lewis Drive. So I know that this house faces 21, so it feels like it should be commercial. And like I said, I'm okay with it being a certain kind of commercial, but not the kind that drives traffic through. And from my understanding, this lot is going to have lighting, which, I know Mr. Reddick said a few things about that. Mr. Ratchford, I know he said a few things about that, but I have more questions because I know you speak of a tall fence, but how tall are these light poles going to be, or what are the specific features, or how light are they going to be?
Ms. Scout, and if you'll address the board and give us your questions, we'll try to get you some answers.
Sorry. Well, these are the questions that I have because a 10-foot fence, yes, I can't see your car lot, but then what kind of light pollution are we going to have through our windows, Mr. Malcolm, and then, our house and Mr. Reddick's house? They're very close to this facility. So I'm wondering if we're going to have, 25-foot light poles and a 10-foot fence, and this is something that we don't know until this thing is mowed down, all the trees are gone, and the pavement's in there. He also spoke of permeable pavement, which, you know, I mean, that sounds fun and good for the environment, I guess. I do know that there's all kinds of ratio of how much runoff you can have with how much cement. But I will say everybody on this street has a deep water well. Every single one of us. The well guy came to town in the 70s. My pump still works from the 70s. Everybody's got a well. So I'm also concerned with how much industry we keep putting in this area. So it's not just about this car lot going in right here, no big deal, right? But there's quite a bit of business a little bit further up. There's also a huge amount of what I would call industry, not even commercial, coming in right off Goshen Road, back behind the Phillips Flooring Mart. And this is all backing up on, you know, the picture you guys sent me right here is like, I mean, you can see, like, this is all the trees we have left right here. And one of the reasons we were told a deceleration lane could not be extended in the first place is because that it was lowlands, or what they call wetlands, and the Army Corps of Engineers would have to provide some sort of plan that assessed what could be built there, how much dirt would have to come in. When I asked your lovely assistant Chelsea, you know, for that information, assuming that we would have that information if we were going to prove something like this, and somebody even mentioned before, certain land does have to have certain requirements, but there is no Army Corps of Engineer, you know. In fact, Mr. Ratchford just admitted himself that he couldn't find an engineer to draft this up, and he sketched it himself. I mean, that just blows my mind away that we're going to break up the second oldest neighborhood in Rincon, you know, over a sketch. We don't even have an engineer drawing up a sketch, let alone giving a report about how much loads of dirt are going to have to be brought in. And then I know I'm from here, but I did not grow up here. I am definitely a city girl, and I have been told many times that sometimes my expectations for our city maybe are too high. And my response to that is I would hate to live somewhere that everybody had low expectations, right? I would look at this, and if I was the county and I saw this much trees right here, like if you've ever been to Austin, Texas, that's where I'm from, there's so many trails, there's so many parks, we even have Baker's Pond here, there's Tom Triplet. I mean, to me, if you are thinking vision, if you were thinking what is gonna serve this community like far out, 20, 50 years from now, why not some small parking lot there maybe without the need of lights for day use for a great trail there around the small part of trees we have left in a great location, something people could enjoy for the future. I personally think that would service this county much better than a car lot. And I think that is probably about it. I'm gonna just kind of like round it out with 3 different things, which is, you know, that I'm not against progress, right? But there's also another really important P word, which is preservation, okay? So this isn't just about what are we progressing, what are we approving, it's what are we preserving? Like, are we trying to preserve this wonderful, great neighborhood, or at least the enjoyment of the people who live there and the roads that are there? And then we're asking you to stay consistent with your previous decisions, you know, I want to believe that, you know, I can take this word to the bank. Understand that it's also the owner's prerogative to bring this every 6 months. And I mean, I guess for the rest of all time, we're going to come down here and do this every 6 months. And if that's how it is, that is how it is. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with is if you are even on the fence a little bit about this, I challenge you to drive down our street. Come the way that traffic would have to come from Rincon. Take that left on Chimney Road. Take that right on Azalea. Drive down. See the houses. See the neighborhood. And see what you are preserving, hopefully, right? And to not just make a decision based on this aerial view. And that's it. All right, I'm gonna sign in, and then I'm out of here.
Thank you, Ms. Skelton.
Yes, sir, I'm Malcolm Smith. I live at 123 Lewis Drive, and I'm against this also. We have been up down here so many times, it's unreal. But back when Donald Gates bought the property on Chimney Road and Corn Chimney Road in 21, that property, they all approved it and all, which we finally, we tried to fight it, but we never could, and y'all went ahead and approved it. But it was supposed to be for medical. Donald Gates, they have dentistry. The property that Mr. Ransford said, right beside them, Mr. I think Bryant, Donald Bryant. Donald never did file for commercial property. That property is a rental property right now, but it has never been commercialized. But I mean, why is y'all we having to keep on doing this? It's just, I mean, it's a perfect neighborhood. We've been there I've been there 35 years. I know Arnold and Judy Ray that lives right next to it, been there longer than I have. And most of the people in there, I mean, we got 2 new houses, or one house is being built, and one property is getting ready to have some more property, as far as another house. But I tell you what, I tried to be nice to Mr. Bazemore one time. He had a rental over there, and I was trying to tell him what he said. He said, "Wasn't you one of the guys that were down there and got the place taken away?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Get the F off my property." I said, "Yes, sir, that's fine." I mean, that's not, this neighborhood is a Christian neighborhood. I mean, it's godly people that lives in that neighborhood. What kind of language are we gonna hear from that property when people come around? Well, I got grandkids and great-grandkids. I worry about all of that. And I'm just so disappointed. I really am. I ask this board, please deny this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
My name's Larry Hendricks. I live on Lewis Drive, 180 Lewis Drive. That's on the corner of Azalea and Lewis. And I've been living there right at 20 years. And it's one of the best neighborhoods I've lived in. I've lived all around the country. The particular job I had sent me transferred around the country and all. Anyway, it's a nice neighborhood. The people are friendly. We have very little traffic. Once in a while, people coming down Azalea and they want to run up to 21 and they're getting left-hand lane so they can do a turn. If you go down Chimney Road to get there, you can't hardly get across there, especially in the morning. Anyway, I've been living there close to 20 years, and it's a really good neighborhood. We don't need any commercial on 21 and Lewis Drive. It'll change things considerably if you put some commercial like a restaurant or any kind of business where people, come in. And also we have more traffic if you put a car dealership or used cars or whatever on that corner. So I hope you don't approve that. I mean, we need to keep it pretty close to what it is now. I appreciate you guys listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. Could I just ask for a show of hands for the people that are opposed to this? All right, thank you.
My name is Arnold Reddick. My property is next door to this proposed used car lot. And we're going to skip the rhetoric about lowering property values, traffic, and all that. I'm here to respectfully request that this commission deny the privilege of this used car lot being put on our property. We have a nice, clean neighborhood, and we'd like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to ask that anyone else speak, if you have something new to add. Of course, everyone is entitled to their time at the podium, but so is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor or against this request?
Hey, I'm Donnie Bazemore. I just want to address to you what the gentleman said I said to him. I tried to rent this property and the people completely destroyed this house. And I was up there, they had food that it went bad, the electricity had been cut off and all that stuff. He walked up to me as I'd walked out and was trying to get this stuff out of the house. And I simply asked him, was he still opposed to me doing it? And all I said to him was to leave my property, please. I didn't cuss him. My parents didn't raise me that way. And he knows my parents, he knows my uncle and all that stuff. And as far as traffic, a car lot will get a tenth of the traffic that a doctor office or restaurant or something like that would get. There's no comparison. If a doctor's office there would be people constantly going down there. As I said before, there's usually, you know, I'd say at the most between 5 and 10 people that visit our lot a day now. So the traffic compared to what it would be with a doctor's office or restaurants, no comparison. But I had a gentleman with me this day when he approached me, and he even made a comment about how proud he was the way I handled it. He's an elderly guy also, so that didn't happen the way it was said.
Well, I can speak for this commission and say that this is going to be on the merits of the zoning, and no, nothing. That's not going to have any weight on it. So, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Questions, comments? Mr. Ratchford, did you hear anything you wish to have a rebuttal for?
Mr. Chairman, you know, where we're at on it is, you know, I feel for these people. I know how they are with their neighborhood and everything else. But Highway 21's there. We can't do anything about that. The traffic situation is bad. It's not going to get any better. Of the various uses, I probably think Mr. Bazemore's right. I know how many come into Joseph's office back and forth by my office, and it blows my mind how many come through there for a medical office. It's open from Monday till Friday. It's a lot different with a used car only having 5 or 10. I don't believe the routing through the neighborhood is a big issue, but anyhow, that would be up to y'all. But the only reason I want to come back up here, we are looking, and I hope that Teresa and Eric would both agree. We are trying to work with the county to make this work. I mean, these things that we're talking about that were listed on that exhibit are things that we came up with. If there's something else that we can do to make it easier, we will.
All right, questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Ratchford. I'm going to close public comment. Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add?
Well, yes, I mean, the county engineer and I did meet with Mr. Ratchford. We did not guarantee success at all. In fact, the county engineer did discuss with Mr. Ratchford issues of paving thickness. That became a topic, but I hadn't reviewed the application yet, so there was no indication at all that we were pro or con or anything. When we did review this, we did dig up the previous rezoning effort, and I mean, the minutes are included in your packet there. We're recommending denial because there is a clear chance that traffic, as one of the opponents did say, would go up Chimney Road and over Azalea and then down Lewis. And this is a residential area, and actually the county future land use map does actually show this as residential, so that you know, it's not true that all of Highway 21 is considered commercial, a growth corridor for commercial. I mean, it is a corridor for commercial, but that black star there is the lot we're talking about, and this subdivision was called out even in the future land use map as being future residential and not envisioned as future commercial. There's a long history, I guess, of rezoning applications or conditional use applications, but the zoning map that we've got at this time shows that the blue in here is R1 single-family residential, and here we do have commercial next to the subject property and across Highway 21, and there's a variety of different intensity of uses across the, you know, there's strip centers, there's, I believe, boat sales. So upon review of the entire case history, I mean, the minutes from the previous meeting in 2020 do show that the discussion centered around a meeting even before then, and that this area is envisioned as, first of all, supporting whatever activities are currently taking place. So in a residential subdivision, some low-intensity development could be considered a conditional use for a medical office, perhaps, but that's not what we have in front of us. B3 is a very intensive use, and we're seeing a lot more interest in B3 because it's very, very close to industrial in its uses. Granted, this is a small parcel. We wouldn't expect to see it's 1.6 acres. We wouldn't expect to see an extremely intensive use. Buffers in commercial are 30 feet. So 30 foot is required between a commercial use and adjacent residential uses. So that would be a minimum standard, actually, the 30-foot buffer between, don't know if you can see my cursor moving here, but 30-foot would be a minimum along this line and this line. At the back here, against the adjacent commercially zoned property, it would be a smaller buffer requirement. So, given that we didn't see, I included only this, which was part of the application, and the sketch that you did, Mr. Ratchford, I couldn't get a good enough resolution to get it on the slide, so if you have a darker copy, that would be helpful. But all in all, we did review this, and while improvements could be made if this were to be approved, you know, to the paving and to the vegetative buffer requirements, staff are recommending denial of this application.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Discussion from the board. Any discussion? I mean, it's Highway 21. I mean, it's a 4-lane highway. I get it. For me, it's still in a subdivision, and we're talking about a low traffic car lot. I mean, and I know both you gentlemen, and I believe what you're telling me, but you know, we're also fixing to stamp a B3 zoning, which is our highest use commercial. You know, if that doesn't work, I mean, I just can't. I get the plan, I get everything. I get Lewis Drive, I get it all, but I just can't get over that it's in this subdivision. I mean, and so I'm having a hard time with it.
I think that the traffic, I mean, there's gotta be a better entrance off of 21 if you're heading south to try and get in there, and you just can't get in unless you drive through the middle of a subdivision. Needs to be a better traffic plan.
You got anything else to say? All right, I call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Have a motion for denial. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mrs. Zipper. All those in favor of denial? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Once again, this is a recommendation to the county commissioners. And in the past, it's gone. I think we haven't agreed yet on this, what went on down there. So, sorry, gentlemen. Item 10 is a public hearing for Greg Coleman as agent for Old Augusta Partners. Request approval of a sketch plan for Cowan property proposed warehouse. Cowan property proposed warehouse located on Old Augusta Road, Zone I-1. This is the 5th district. Mr. Coleman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Greg Coleman with Coleman Company. Here, like you just said, we've got a sketch plan in for a 7-acre parcel on Old Augusta Road for the Cowans. This parcel was I think rezoned with the larger industrial development that just sold, and is, you know, adjacent to the Estes, an industrial area, and you know, just trying to make the most of the uplands he's got there. He's planning on, you know, building a 50,000 plus or minus square foot warehouse, as shown on the plan. This will be a, you know, smaller warehouse compared to the others in the area. He's got, I believe he does have a tenant, probably 3 office employees and 4 or 5 in the warehouse. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Teresa, do you have anything to add?
Just to say that we did have a pre-application meeting on November 30th. We discussed buffers, which, given the wetlands, they're kind of naturally in place, so there's no variance request or anything of that sort. The county engineer did discuss access and is requiring a traffic impact assessment to determine turn lane needs and lengths. But that was all discussed at that meeting, so you know, he will be available to discuss that with you as we move forward. But staff are recommending approval.
Did we vote to reduce the front buffer?
No, this is I-1 across the street, I believe. So
It is I-1.
Oh, okay.
So the required buffer was only 25 feet.
25 feet.
Yes, sir.
It is, as you see there, it is I-1 entirely. It is entirely encircled in I-1.
Right.
The red into
Yeah.
that little green.
Gotcha. Questions, comments? This is a public hearing? Does it have to be? Does anyone else want to speak? You don't get to speak. All right, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Larson, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Item 11, consideration to amend the 2022 Planning Board meeting schedule in order to move dates in conflict with observed holidays.
As
Thank
you
you,
know,
gentlemen.
we moved the January meeting twice, but the first time was because it initially fell on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We moved it to the 10th, and we had an advertising problem, so we moved it to tonight, the 31st. February, we have a similar problem. President's Day falls on the third Monday, so we're moving it to the February 14th. And in June, Juneteenth falls on the third Monday. That would be June 20th, so we're rescheduling that meeting to June 13th. And we're asking for approval of this proposed agenda. I'm sorry, schedule of meeting dates.
Suspended with pay.
I would like to approve.
Questions, comments? I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, all's in favor. Carried by all.
Mr. Zipper, did you get the second on that one? All right, thank you.
Mr. Zipper seconded it.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Alan Zipper.
Meeting adjourned.
Well, that went exactly how I thought it would.
Me too.